right, shalom, shalom.
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 All right, give us a second to check the feed. All right, we're good. All right, shalom.
Shalom.
Brothers
Shalom.
from Great
Shalom.
Millstone, Charlotte, coming back with another Lord willing lesson to feed the elect of the nation of Israel. And before we get started with this lesson, we want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachahakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect that's out here laboring in all truth and sincerity. To you, we say shalom.
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 So we back on another 12 tribes breakdown. This time we want to go into the breakdown of the tribe of Asher, which is you so-called was it Pat say
Colombia,
it really again.
Uruguay,
Colombians,
Mm-hmm.
Uruguayans, you know.
Brazilians.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a brain fart. But yeah, so we just wanted to, go into this to this breakdown so that we can, bring out the understanding, so uh we can start. Could you get Genesis 49 and 20?
I got it right here. Oh, you can pull it up on the screen?
No, I'll just leave it like this. I say it'll be too much going back and forth.
Okay. This is Genesis chapter 49 and verse 20. It says, out of Ahshar, his bread shall be fat,
So
and
I
he
can
shall.
start at the beginning part and then jump down.
Okay.
Where it talks about the where the tribes are going to be at and all that.
Okay. This is Genesis 49 and verse 1. It says, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Right, because every time we do these breakdowns, I want to continue to bring out this point to let you know that look, in Genesis 49 is one of the chapters that we use to help determine where the tribes are today. So as we know, according to the curses, how Israel was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So this prophecy that we're reading today, all right, where Jacob was telling his sons where the tribe of Asher will be at, in these last days, where we can get an indicator to know who the tribes are, man. Go ahead.
This is, go to verse 2.
Go ahead. Let's see what it says, and then we'll jump down.
Okay, Genesis 49 and 2, it says, gather yourselves together, and hear ye sons of Yaiqua, and hearken unto Israel, your father.
Mm-hmm. You jump down.
Verse 20, Genesis 49 and 20, it says, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties.
Right. So we want to go into the breakdown of what this prophecy speaks of. So let me pull this up on the screen. So you run it back one more time, Baba Shah?
Genesis 49 and 20, it says, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties.
Right. So it says, out of Asher the bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. So I'm gonna just read this excerpt from this site off of medium.com dealing with the breakdown. So it says the dainties, which are the exquisite foods, are never on display more than at festivals, the biggest of them being the South American Carnival, which is also known as Mardi Gras, and is highly celebrated through Latin America. Carnival is derived from Latin carnem lavar, meaning removal of flesh. The festival ends at the beginning of Lent, so there are many meat-free recipes, including an abundance of sweet treats and other tasty foods. So the bread going into the resources that land that Asher is in right now, is pretty much famous for, man. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then going into the dainties, because like I said, the bread going into, because that land over there in Colombia, Uruguay, and all that is rich in oil, and different natural resources, which is why Esau, has his hand over there. All right, pretty much, taking advantage of the land to where the tribes aren't benefiting from that as they could be, you know. It
And I
says,
got some articles, priest. Whenever you're done.
okay, kind, just go ahead and you want to go ahead and shoot it now? I'll put it on the screen, but I'll finish it out real quick. It
Con.
says, and he shall yield royal dainties. Now, as we said, the dainties is going into the food, okay? Because that's a big part of Brazilian culture. All the countries that we named, Uruguay, Guatemala, and all that. They're known for their good food, man. So I'll add this to the brother real quick, and you go ahead and go with bro.
So just real quick, I got this article right here. It's from USDA.gov. It says Brazil's momentum as a global agricultural supplier faces headwinds. So you go into this, pretty much touching on Brazil, but really that whole region, like the brother mentioned, from Colombia down to Brazil, down to Uruguay, that whole region is very fertile. It has a lot of resources as far as minerals. But touching on the agriculture real quick, it says Brazil, the fifth largest country in area and population, and the largest in terms of arable land, is among the few countries with potential to increase agricultural productivity. Over the past 2 decades, Brazil has been consolidating its position as a major producer of agricultural commodities and related food products, as well as a supplier of international markets. Right? Because whenever you see now, when you look at BRICS, the B for BRICS stands for Brazil. And they always say that Brazil is the breadbasket of the earth. So that just goes to show you how fertile and how pretty much fruitful that land is. They got the Amazon forest there, and constantly we see Esau, like the brother the priest just mentioned. You see Esau going down there and trying to get the resources out that land. They constantly burn down the rainforest so that way they can expand their agriculture. But it says, "Oh, Con, you got something, bro? Go ahead, bro."
I wait till you done.
Con, I just want to read this paragraph real quick, but it says, it is now a top 5 producer of 34 commodities and is the largest net exporter in the world. This is continuing trade expansion and diversification of markets and products remains at the core of Brazil's agricultural growth strategy. However, increases in fuel and fertilizer costs, credit and storage limitations, an overburdened port and transportation system, and pressure to preserve the environment are challenging the long-term growth of Brazilian agriculture. So really, that whole land is so fertile and they're overproducing that they can't even export these stuff out. It's too much. The system that they have in place to export these things can't handle it. Right. So that just shows you how fruitful that land is over there.
That's right.
Right. I'm gonna get this, because we're going to Ahshar in the Hebrew, and it stretches from Colombia all the way to Uruguay. And we actually when we build this word up, it's related to the word for shar, which is a rope. I want to touch on this word for Ahshar, H836, and it says happy. It says happy one. Now going to the root word, it says Ahshar. It says to go straight. It says to go straight on. It says to go straight, to set straight, writing, to pronounce, happy, call, blessed. And that's pretty much, what his name goes into. All right, I got a little bit more. It says to be straight, which that goes back to the scriptures. Jacob be like, you good, you straight, which that really goes into, Asher's name, because when you're straight, you're pretty much well off or you're blessed. It says to be straight, used in the widest sense, especially to be level, right, happy, figuratively to go forward, be honest, prosper, call, be blessed, happy, go, guide, lead, and relieved. All right, I'm going to read this as well. It says, Asher, it says, in relation to shar, which means a rope, it says, which is ropes and cords made from bark strips of cedar or the tendon of an animal. The rope is made by twisting 2 fibers together. The beginning has to be pressed, which the beginning is ra'ash, and it says has to be pressed, which that's the shah, all right, which that means to press, and they're pressed together. It says ropes were used to secure something or support something related to the umbilical cord. It says Ahshar has a relation or a connotation because Asher in his name is because, he lives like a rope, and that, he's straight, he's good, he's well off, he's blessed. It says he was erected and given the estate that he was given. It says Brazil, that's pretty much where Asher dwells at, predominantly, Colombia to Brazil, Uruguay, are as rich in the resources like we're going into in this article. I believe that like maybe 85% of the world's food comes from, the Amazonian rainforest, which is in the same, land, that Asher is in. And that's pretty much why his name goes into to be blessed, to be set aright, you see, because essentially, he got everything. He got iron. All right, it's heavy coffee imports. It's heavy banana imports. It's heavy imports of a lot of stuff in that specific area of the world, and that's ultimately why his name goes into happy, which is again it's Ahshar.
Because I can add to that, because if you Google what is Brazil rich in, like you name, it says iron ore, manganese, copper. It said it's the leading producer of commodities like soybeans, coffee, sugarcane,
Mhm.
beef, poultry, solidifying its position as a major agriculture and industrial power globally. It says, I'm just reading the AI overview, just kind of going into this. It says, key points about Brazil's wealth, minerals. Uh, Brazil is considered one of the world's leading producers of iron ore, which is funny because like you go into your womb, that word Brazil goes back to the Hebrew word barazal, which is iron, right?
Right. Yeah, because like Brazil is just in the spirit, like Brazil, Barazos, it's the same phonetic sound, showing you that that's, where the iron is. Can I get that precept for you?
You got it.
Con, this is Deuteronomy 33 and 24. It says, and of Asher he said, let Asher be blessed with children, let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil. And which, if I could touch on the verse 24, it says, let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil, you see, because you got, the so-called Amazonian Indians, essentially, it'll be some elect amongst, them, so that's why it says let him be acceptable to his brethren, because how they live is kind of detached, from society, but again, it's going to be elect, amongst them. But it says, verse 25, it says, go back 25, it says, thy shoes shall be iron and brass as thy days, so shall thy strength be.
Kind.
Mhm.
Yashai, I'm gonna put you back on the screen in a minute. I just wanted to pull this up
Gone.
off of what your one was reading. Find that section. Um, if not, then I'll just read it off my phone. But I don't see it in here now. All right, don't worry about it. I'll just read off my phone. So, just off of what you were saying, as far as can you read that verse again, Bubble Shah?
Deuteronomy 33 and 25. It says, thy shoes shall be iron and brass, and as thy days, so shall thy strength be.
Right. So, just dealing with that landmass. So, this excerpt I got, it says large quantities of oil and gas can also be found within South America. Venezuela alone is one of the world's largest producers and exporters of oil and produces up to 135 million tons of oil each year. South America contains about one fifth of the world's iron ore reserves, and most important beds being in Brazil and Venezuela, and, and Cerro Verde, which is Peru, is one of the top five copper producing mines in the world today. It is these reasons that Moses said their sandals would be iron and bronze, and that Asher would dip his foot in oil. Overall, South America is very rich in many mineral resources from the ground. Even the Hebrew word for iron is barazal, which is very similar to Brazil. It was not lost on the European explorers when first coming into contact with these natives that they were associations linked to Hebrews according to their customs, language, and clothing. Now, when you go into especially like countries like Peru, all right, a lot of them know that they go back to Israel, man. They still
Mhm.
practice the customs to somewhat. They wear the fringes and all that. So I got some pictures I wanted to show, just of some of the Israelites over in Peru. But you got it, you one.
Con, I'm gonna get this too. This is it's that word for so let me go back. It's the word for iron. And like we were saying, it goes into the Hebrew word barazal, and it pretty much goes into iron ore. It says material or furniture, utensils, implements, and tool of iron. Pretty much going into how Asher again is blessed with that iron. Because with the resource of iron, it's a lot of things that you can do with it. It's very versatile. And I want to get this though. This is Genesis chapter 30 and verse 13. We start at verse 12. It says, "And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Yaakov a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed, and she shall and she called his name Asher." And pretty much, just iterating the point, that was pretty much that name prophesied how Asher was going to be set up. He was going to be blessed, and he was going to be fortunate, for the land that he got in Brazil.
God, real quick, let me put this on the screen. Cause like that the article I just read has said that in there were associations linked to Hebrews according to the customs, language, and clothing because, like I said, a lot of them are aware of their roots of where they go back to. So
Mm-hmm.
we got some pictures that we wanted to show just to show that hey Jake is knowledgeable of their history, where they go back to, man. It's just America is the main part where this truth is hidden. But a lot of Jake, they're not keeping the laws 100%. But the fact that they still know where they come from, just lets you know that these got to be Israelites, man. Could you get Romans 8 and 16 real quick? We got this one. Like you see here, these are Hebrew Israelites from South America. Look how they're dressed, man. You see the fringes, all right. I don't really see a border of the blue on it, but the fact that it's still, they're practicing the customs either way. All right. So you got this one, and I'm gonna put this other one on here. You know, and these are this is a picture from some Israelites in Peru. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, you still see the fringes. I say they might not have the border of blue, but the fact that they wear the fringes, they know where that goes back to. Okay,
Hmm.
they understand that that was a commandment for us to wear that. You know, and like you said, you see the sandals. They wear that because of prophecy.
Mm-hmm. Right. And also, if I may add too, I remember I looked into them a while back. They also keep their hair long because they're trying to keep the Nazarite vow as well.
Heavy. See, you got it.
Yeah, pull it
Uh,
up.
yeah, I got it.
Okay.
This is Romans 8 and 16. It says, "The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High."
Right. So the spirit of an Israelite, all right, is evident in what you see that we do. Our customs and things that we do, it goes back to the spirit that's within us. Because you also get Romans 12 and 14 to go with that. All right.
Come on.
Because for you to sit here, because you got Jake and that black only, bullshit that to try to exclude the Northern Kingdom, why would Jake be, why would these people be dressing like this if they didn't go back to Israel, man? If they weren't, Israelites, why would they be dressed like this? Because it's the spirit that's in them to make them do this, man. You know, these ain't just some random what they will call white boys. Because Jacob, they don't these bugged out 2/3 to see, especially this brother right here on the outside with the blue. They look at him, like, that's a white boy. Nah, man, these are Israelites, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you got it
Right. Yeah, Jake suffers from colorism.
right.
Mhm.
But you said Romans 12 and 14?
2 and 14.
Oh, okay, Salakia. Romans 2 and 14. It says, "For when the Gentiles which have the Salakia, for when the Gentiles which have not the law do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves."
So a lot of the practices that our people do off of pure instinct, it goes back into the spirit of the Lord, which has the laws in us, which we do naturally. So in them, it's natural for them to equate some of their customs back to the law, statute, commandments because they're Israelites, man. There's no denying it. Because you don't see Esau walking around with fringes, you don't see Moab or Ishmael or none of these other heathens, you know, that's doing what the law says for us to do because this is our customs, man. This is the spirit that the Lord gave us it's in us to naturally want to serve the Lord, man. It's just through the westernization and the hiding of where we really come from that keeps Jake from really flourishing into our custom, man.
God, may I read this in the NLT?
You got it.
Romans 2 and 14 in the NLT, it says, even Gentiles, Israelite foreigners, who do not have the Most High's written law, show that they know his law when they instinctively obey it, even without having heard it.
Mm,
So just backing
yeah,
up your point, it just made it more clear, because
yeah,
Jake just has sometimes just naturally, even you see him, Jake that's in the world, or Jake in these various countries, you see them sometimes naturally doing things that is written about in the scriptures, whether it's uh, eating unleavened bread, whether it's um, keeping certain things that the law dictates to keep, like as far as the blood, the cutting into the flesh, certain things
yep.
like that. Like Jake just naturally, is squeamish or stays away from that kind of stuff. But really, a lot of that stuff goes back to the law, and they don't even know it.
Kind of like a good example, what you just said. This is from that back on that medium.com website. This is an excerpt that was written. It says both the Mexicans and the Peruvians were accustomed to take off their sandals whenever they trod upon holy ground or entered the places of their kings. This agreement is an arbitrary custom between two Indian nations so remote from each other, would seem to argue a common acquaintance on the part with the history of the Most High's appearing to Moses in the burning bush and commanding him to take off his shoes because the place on which he stood was holy. So like you just read in that Romans the second chapter, all right, certain customs that they do, it goes back to the law whether they realize it or not, man. All right. And it's another one I wanted to read right here, dealing with the I believe it's the Incans. Yeah, the Incans and the Mexicans. It says this is from a Jewish explorer, Jewish expositor. I don't know how you say that word. And Friend of Israel, Volume 5, J. Duncan, 1820. So it says, Black in his description of South America, as well as Escobotus, assures us that he often heard the South Africans repeat the word hallelujah. And Malvinda says that the natives of St. Michael's had tombstones with several ancient Hebrew characters upon them, as why is God gone away and he is gone and he is dead, God knows. The McEwens, one of the original nations of Mexico, held to, held according to the Abbey Clavigero Declaration, this tradition that there was once a great deluge, and Tebzi, as they call Noah, in order to save himself from being drowned, embarked in a ship formed like an ark with his wife, his children, and many different animals, and several seeds and fruits. As the waters abated, he sent out the bird which bears the name of Ora, which remained eating dead bodies. He then sent out other birds which did not return, except the little bird called the flower sucker, which brought a small branch with it. Panopoulos for June 1813, page 9. From this family of Tepsi, the Machuans all believe they derived their origin. Both Malvinda and Acosta affirm that the natives observed a year of Jubilee according to the usage of the Israelites. So this is just facts that Esau has found to link them back to the tribes of Israel, man. You know?
Mhm.
And so reading this last part, it says this last journal entry is very interesting as it talks about the Incans often exclaiming hallelujah or hallelujah, meaning praise God or praise Yah, using Hebrew lettering, celebrating Jewish festivals, as well as bringing up that Mexicans, which is the tribe of Issachar, could recount the flood story centuries later in the Americas as it was written by Moses. Jacob had to say this about Asher, and it quotes what we read earlier about Genesis 49 and 20. So, Esau knows, what's up, man.
All
Mhm.
right.
Y'all got it.
This is Yashaya, Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 1. It says, Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. It says, Thus saith the Lord that made thee and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and thou Yasharwan, whom I have chosen, which Yasharwan goes into a right one. It says, For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground, and I will pour my seed upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring, which pretty much, that water goes into the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. It says, and they shall spring up as among the grass, as willows by the watercourses. That's pretty much going to the camps. It says, one shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself by the name of Yaquab Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord, and to name himself by the name of Yasha'Allah Israel. And I want to get this in the NLT for verse 5. It says, some will proudly claim, which we seen on that picture, pretty much Jake, in the kingdom, they had, the garments on, like bros was going into, they was growing out their hair, essentially to keep the customs. But what we're seeing is essentially Jake, rising up around the four corners of the globe and essentially proclaiming and subscribing to, this truth, because we are the people, are pursuant to Romans 8 and verse 16. I'm gonna read this again, NLT, Isaiah 44 and 5. NLT, it says, some will proudly claim, I belong to the Lord. Others will say, I am a descendant of Jacob. Some will write the Lord's name on their hands and will take the name of Israel as their own. That's essentially what's going on. Jake is rising up on the four corners of the globe, and essentially, just by nature, pursuant to what we got in Romans, I believe it was the second chapter, where pretty much Jake does things that's written in the law. And then also Jake is coming back to, the fact that we are indeed, the Israelites. But I also want to get this too, if I can. This is Isaiah Yeshaya chapter 62 and verse 2. It says, and the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all and the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all kings thy glory, and thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name. Now, when we get this word for new, it says Chadash, and it says H23:19. It says new thing, fresh. It says to be new, renew, repair. So essentially, Jake, for years, Jake was being called Mexican, black. All right, we're talking about Ahshar right now. So Jake down there was going by Brazilian, Uruguayan, Colombian, you see. But now we're seeing it to where Jake is subscribing to this truth, and essentially putting on, the garments, the holy garments.
Oh, that's right. You got it, Yeshaya.
Con. I guess I'll move on. Let me get this. Bear with me. This is from the Wikipedia. Just touching on a little bit of the history. It says indigenous people of Uruguay, right? So it says indigenous people of Uruguay or native Uruguayans are the people who have historically lived in modern state of Uruguay. It says because of genocidal colonial practices, disease, and active exclusion, only a very small share of the population is aware of the country's indigenous history or has known indigenous ancestry. See, so this is how bad Esau has destroyed our people, to where our people don't even realize really who they go back to. That's a lot of mass genocide, which I'm gonna read down here. Down here it says the genocide of the Charrua culminated on April 11th, 1831, with the massacre of Salsipuedes, where most of the Charrua men were killed by the Uruguayan army and orders of President uh, Fructuoso Rivera. A remaining 300 Charrua women and children were divided as household slaves and servants among Europeans. By 1840, there were only 18 surviving Charrua in Uruguay, according to the history professor and journalist Lincoln uh, Maiz Tegui Casas. The disappearance of the Charrua people was a gradual process that took more than 200 years, and the root cause was territorial occupation by Europeans. So it just goes to show, man, the curse is falling upon our people, because because like you mentioned, priest, you have a lot of Southern Kingdom Jakes that thinks that all tribes are black, all tribes
Right.
should be dark skinned. But this just shows you, that with the arrival of Esau, that how these men has did our people, and the cult, the history of what happened to our people, and also uh, um, how our people conducting themselves. The priest brought out also evidence that our people knew about the flood, knew about. Uh, um, we held on to certain practices, right? So it just shows you, like this, we brought out Romans 8 and 16. Was it 18 or 16? The spirit
Hey,
bears witness with our
16.
spirit. Con, the spirit bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High, right? And I wanted to bring out this also, because I found this interesting. Just going into the fruitfulness of that land, that land over there in Colombia, that's what they used to think was what they call it, El Dorado.
Mm. Yeah, I remember hearing Colorado.
It says the gold of the conquistadors in this article.
Matter of fact, ain't that a movie? Didn't like Pixar or somebody make a movie about that?
Con. See, it goes into various, it goes into the Aztecs, but down here it goes into Colombia. I'm trying to find it right here. Let me increase the size. So it says the gold of El Dorado. It says in ancient Colombia, gold was also revered for its luster and association with the sun. In powder form, gold was used to cover the body of the future Muisca king Muisca king in a lavish coronation ceremony, which gave rise to the legend of El Dorado, gilded man. It says the newly dusted monarch then leaped into Lake uh, Guatavita in a ritual act of cleansing. Meanwhile, onlookers threw precious objects into the lake as auspicious offerings to the gods. By the time the conquistadors have heard rumors of the ceremony in the 1530s, the story had been embellished, and El Dorado had became not a man but a great city paved with gold. But at the end of the day, it just shows you that how much wealth Jake had at that time, enough to grind down gold to a powder, and then just powder the king with gold as a ceremony. But it says but pretty much goes into some more of the history how they couldn't find a city. But the point being is that that land was very rich in resources and in agriculture, all that, man.
Mm-hmm. Because it's like the Incan, because that the Incan Empire, that's around the same area where you see, Asher and them, today. Yeah, the people we're talking about now, the Brazil, Uruguay, and all that. So we can link those people back to the Incan Empire, man. All right, and as we went into some of the customs that the Incans, they did went back to the tribes because we understand, according to Second Esdras, the 13th chapter, that they came over here with the intention of keeping the law, statute, commandments. Well, we know through the process of prophecy and history that they had to fall away, so that the Lord's will can be done. These devils had to come over here and rape, rob, and murder the land, like we see, using this example that you got on the screen. That's
Hmm.
John 10:10. The thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy, man.
I'm
Right.
not,
He's
I'm not
scared
mistaken.
about all the riches and fucking rob them, man.
Hmm. You
Somebody
gonna
about
say
to say
something you
something?
want?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that goes into Ophir as well, right? From the gold in the Americas.
I believe
I'm not
so.
sure on
I
that.
don't know.
Con.
But I know, this whole land over here was wealthy in gold. That's why Esau came. Well, it was one of the reasons why Esau came over here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I also
Yeah.
got another article touching on slavery in Colombia, because like we mentioned, this hit all the tribes. All the tribes were hit, but we're mainly in this one talking about Asher and showing you how as soon as Esau came over here, this man was like a plague, just putting our people into this. Really, it was a punishment of the Lord at the end of the day. But the scriptures talk about how the wicked is the Most High sword.
Mm-hmm.
But it says right here,
This for you real quick, so we just get a scripture in between that.
Con,
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, and I started. I can read 13. Um, and the Lord shall make. That's not the right one. Slocky. Go ahead. I pulled the wrong one.
Con. I just want to touch on this in this article on Wikipedia. It
Whoa.
says indigenous slavery. It says the historical enslavement of indigenous peoples in what is now Colombia predated the arrival of the Spanish. It is documented that the Chibchas, the Musos, and the Panchas engaged in enslavement and cannibalism practices. So Jake was going off,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Like
know.
when you look at that movie Apocalypto, that was pretty much showing you all the Northern Kingdom was tripping at that point, man. So
Hmm.
the Lord sent Esau over here, all right, as a means of punishment because they was tripping, infighting, doing all type of ritualistic sacrifices and all that, man.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You know, when you're reading was the second Ezra, the 13th chapter, the 40th verse. The reason why Jake came over here was to be able to keep and maintain those practices of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But to process the time, and either ways we in this flesh, so we can't really keep the laws 100%. We need Yahweh Shah. So, you know, uh, Jake started going off, to process the time and started incorporating some of the old habits and old customs that our forefathers did, the wicked generations did, and started to, pretty much pervert themselves.
Yep. So like you said, Esau was the sword that the Most High sent over here to bring
Hmm.
that punishment. I got that. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Because, like you said, that Esau came over to this land of Colombia and enslaved you. Where do you think the name Colombia comes from? You know, hey, that goes. If I'm not mistaken, it's Christopher Columbus, right?
Hmm.
You know, so hey, that scriptures tell you, man. They call the lands after their names. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so this is a form of that. That conquering, how they were able to take down. You know the people that you're reading.
Hmm.
It says, "He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail." And you see how even in their own land they're oppressed, man. Hey, this is their resources that they have from their own land, and yet Esau has the majority of control over it, man.
Right, right. Hey, that's the reason why he calls y'all Hispanics. You know,
Right,
I remember
right.
seeing this video of Donald Trump asking, I don't know who it was, I think it was like Issachar or somebody, asking them if they wanted to be called Latinos or Hispanics, and they were like, "Oh, we want to be called Hispanics," not knowing what it goes back to. It means your property is Spain.
Damn, come on, man.
So it just shows you, man, the mindset, that Jake has, man. They're very ignorant,
Right.
but that just shows you also how this man has put these names on you, and his proverbs and bywords, right? But also through those words or those names, he shows possessiveness over you.
That's right.
But continuing on this article, it says the Spaniards, upon encountering these customs, were appalled and sought to abolish cannibalism and convert the indigenous peoples to Christianity in an effort to mitigate the brutality and present depredation present in their region. Really, Esau was just coming in to take over anyway, no matter what. It didn't
This,
even matter about that.
yeah, this is pretty much them colonizing, just these people. Because they have
Hmm.
that. I forget exactly how that saying goes. It's like what kill the beast, save the man, or something like that. So they saw
Kill
all
the
the
Indian, save the man.
yeah. Pretty much you could use that for that too. But they saw the barbaric way of living that they were doing. And it's like, yeah, we got to save these people. You know, Esau got that fucking savior complex, thinking that they can make these people better. But we know the end result was them to go enslave them, man.
Right. Yeah, Esau just virtue signaling right here, really.
Right.
I got precept.
Gone.
This is it's a lot. Give me a second. This is Proverbs. It's a lot. I gotta find it.
How it go?
Transgression increaseth. I got it right here. This is Mashal Yah, Proverbs 29:16. It says, "When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall." And which the the legacy and the downfall of Esau Edom, currently as we speak, as these prophecies continue to push forward, you see. But the prior part of this verse, it says, "When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth." So ultimately, um, when Esau conquers, different peoples, essentially, his ideologies are multiplied. You see, so essentially, we start to see the transgression increase, and then also, literally as well. That's why we see things such as Hellenization, Westernization. You see, because like bros was going into, they would say, oh well, we gotta tame these so-called ruthless savages when whole time Jake was chilling. Jake was going off, but Jake was living a peaceable type of life, somewhat. Esau, every time he goes somewhere, he has to spread his ideology, when contrary to everyone's belief, or those in the world's belief, essentially they feel as if Esau was this clean, civilized type person. But really when you dig down deep into his history, he had to be taught by us how to bathe himself, how to essentially run a society. Really, he got that from Jake,
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Excuse me.
Yeah, hey, and I'm pretty sure, man. Hey, I'm pretty sure not all Jake were going off, man. I'm pretty sure you had the prophets back then warning the people, and he was still going off.
Yeah,
Just like always.
you got Jake scattered amongst all of us. That was trying to do right. That you got the righteous family lines in all the tribes, man.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But continuing on in this article, I'm just going to read a little bit more. It says, as the Spanish conquistadors advanced, indigenous peoples who opposed and fought against the viceroyalty of New Granada were subsequently enslaved as prisoners of war in accordance with Spanish customs. For instance, Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada distributed captured prisoners among his captains and soldiers. So this is how they were enslaving masses of people, those that were they call prisoners of war, right? Pretty much spoils of war.
Mm-hmm.
But let me read down. We skip down by this right here. It says by 1545, the new laws repealed the inheritability of encomiendas. Because again, when you go back to that word, we did this in the previous video. That word encomienda really means slavery. It goes into the marketing of you Jakes, But this is a word that Esau uses to hide the fact that he enslaved you so-called Hispanics. But it says weakening encomienderos by dissolving the grant upon their deaths, again allowing the viceroys and governors to establish new encomiendas. This reached a new dimension with the colonization of the New World, since the subjugated native people was insufficient for the exploitation of natural resources. So this is when it goes down to the African slavery, so-called African slavery, right? Which then it started to bring Judah, Benjamin, Levi in to make up for the insufficiency of the native population, right? So, and you had that happen not just in Colombia, you had that happen in Brazil. That's why there's a lot of dark-skinned brothers over there in Brazil.
Right.
They got. That's a lot.
No, I was just going to add because the weakening population of the natives, they had to bring in Southern Kingdom men to pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm.
You go ahead, bro.
I'm gonna get this real fast. This is Isaiah 22 and verse 17, which really this is ascribed to Southern Kingdom being a slave and America Babylon the Great, but I just want to apply it to captivity. But it says, "Behold, the Lord will carry thee away with a mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of the Lord's house." And pretty much, Jake, like you essentially said, Jake and all of the tribes was enslaved. Whether that be Issachar in the Philippines, whether that be Judah in Brazil. You see, because predominantly, you got Asher down there in Brazil. You see, but you also got some Judites down there as well. It's a population of Judah down there. Then also it's Judah in Mexico, but pretty much Jake was essentially put into captivity. Like we're going into in this lesson in Brazil.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when you go into the history, which a lot of black only Israelites don't realize that the Northern Kingdom went into slavery first. Like Yeshua was saying, because the Northern Kingdom, they had a little bit more fight as far they was willing to die, versus serving Esau, and just for the labor part of it, just Judah is just a hard worker all around. So they had to bring in, the Southern Kingdom of Judah to pretty much, keep up with the workforce that they was wanting. Because a lot of the Northern Kingdom was dying, early on in that slavery. This is why they had to bring, the Southern Kingdom in there.
Mm-hmm. Con. Yeah, and I got this for y'all. This is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 23. It says, "And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron." That's essentially going into the slave trade. But really, Jake was in between a rock and a hard place,
Right.
as they say in the world, man. So no matter where Jake turned, there was judgment. You had the smallpox demic, at that time. You had the Esau coming in with the sword, just jacking up Jake.
Mm-hmm.
You had Jake, infighting amongst Jake. I mean, it was all kinds of. I mean, you can just go through Deuteronomy 28, and there's a whole plethora of curses that fell our people that can be visualized in these times that we read about.
Yeah, yeah. And then on top of that, all the curses apply to all the tribes, man. Which is another
Mm-hmm.
indicator, like the scripture, uh, real quick. It says Deuteronomy 28:45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. So the tribes are all under the curse and suffering from the same thing. This is another indicator to let us know that we got to be the same people, man. All right, they
Mm-hmm.
deal with the same problems that we deal with over here in America, man.
That's right. That's right. Sure, that's all I had, bro.
Yeah, that's all I had too.
Kind of likewise.
Kind of see it. We ain't gonna prolong it then. So Lord on this lesson was edifying. All right, so we're gonna close out, giving all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Racha Hakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect. Until next time, we say Shalom.
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 Shalom.